First of all, I want to get grounded on SharePoint Embedded. For those of you that may be new to the platform, SharePoint Embedded is a graph API platform that allows you to store documents at scale within your custom application. Brings the full collaboration features. So if you're opening a Word document and you want to co-author that Word document, you want to comment on it, you want to securely share that outside the org, all of that is first-class collaboration within SharePoint Embedded. Also a first-class citizen within the compliance area. Any purview configuration that you have, compliance, e-discovery, all of that is honored. And then, of course, Copilot. When you put a document into SharePoint Embedded, it is Copilot ready, meaning that it's in the semantic index and it's ready to go. All right. When you build your application, we handle the rest. So I say we handle the hard stuff on the right-hand side. Again, nobody wants to create their own Entra environment. E-discovery is pretty hard. Purview is pretty hard. All of that that you've configured in your M365 environment, you just kind of get with the SharePoint Embedded environment. You build what you need to build. And that's where we're going to focus today is what is that UI that you want to use to interact with the documents that are stored in SharePoint Embedded. What line of business integrations do you have? Do you want to put it in Salesforce? Do you want to put it in SAP? Create that connector to do that. Totally doable as well. All right. If you have been living under a rock for an extended period of time, then obviously vibe coding is a little bit new to you. Again, like Vesa mentioned, that natural language prompt that you give a coding agent, and it will start to build the code for you. Certainly some tools on the right-hand side that I've listed, not exhaustive by any means, no preference, just some samples that you can start to play with as well. But this is where I wanted to focus a little bit more on an MCP tool that I've created that's in the SPE samples link that you see in the top right corner. What this does is it really encapsulates all of the CRUD operations that you can do with SharePoint Embedded so that once you include that MCP reference in your tool, simply tell it, hey, I want to create a new container. I want to create a new folder. I want to add permissions, whatever that endpoint reference is, vibe code it. Tell the tool what it is that you want to do. And then once you have that configured in your tool, your vibe coding tool, now it will understand what the code needs to do, plug it into your sample app, and you can go from there. We're going to demo this here in just a second. From a setup perspective, a couple housekeeping things that need to be done. On the MCP side of things, you do need to configure what that tenant ID, app ID, client secret, and container type is. So basically, having your SharePoint Embedded environment set up is going to be a hard requirement there. That allows you to get the right bearer token so that you can authenticate into the graph APIs and do what you need to do. If you want to run the MCP locally, great, party on. There's a local host option that you can do there. Or you can deploy that within your Azure environment, creates the Azure resources that you need to with the endpoint that you can then use within your agent, which I'll show you here in just a second. So you can connect the tool through a number of different endpoints. I'm going to focus on Lovable today just because I've got tokens that I need to use there, so that's where we're going to focus. But if you have any of the other agentic tools, then you can certainly connect those as well. And then again, describe what you want to build, right? I want to create a container called project files and upload documents to it. Great. It knows to create that new container using the MCP create container endpoint. It knows to upload a document because there's an upload document in there and so forth. So easily describe what you want to build. The MCP server, because it's connected to your agent, knows what to do from there. All right, so enough of the setup. Let's take a look at something that I've done, and we can dig a little bit deeper here. Okay, so in the URL that, thank you, David, for putting in the chat, there is my MCP endpoint or sample code that you can clone out of GitHub. Couple things that we need to focus on first is there is a .env, .example file that has the stubs that you need to specify what is that tenant ID, client secret, and so forth. When you create your SharePoint embedded environment, you're going to get this. You're going to know the app ID. It's going to give you the container type ID during that creation process. So you'll be able to plug that in straight away. Simply rename that from a .example to just .env, and then the application will pick it up from there. You'll notice that under the tools, we have containers, permissions, files, drives, everything that you need within SharePoint Embedded. So this is the CRUD operations that I mentioned earlier, right? So now you've got that list containers, does what you think it does, goes out and knows the endpoint to hit, knows the container ID variable that you need to pull through. It's going to pull that from the environment variable as well. And get containers, get container drive, update containers, you get the idea. If we go into files, same thing here. What do I want to do with the files? Do I want to list all the files that are in my container? Do I want to get a specific file or get an item? Do I want to upload and so forth? So all of the plumbing, if you will, that needs to go into the endpoint to produce whatever it is you want to produce is contained within that MCP environment. So let's take a look at how that would work in practice. All right, so I'm back in Lovable, for instance, and I've created my sample app over here on the right. I've got a list of my containers that I've used that list functionality for. But to set this up, and this is going to vary by agents or agentic platforms that you use, but in Lovable, if I go to settings, and then if I go to connectors, it has the ability to specify that connector. So you'll notice that I have my SharePoint Embedded connector. And if I go in to see that, you can notice that I've got a few permissions that I have created, but I've got the get container, delete container, a lot of those CRUD operations that we just looked at in the MCP server. And then you'll notice that, hey, this is the endpoint that I have in Azure where that's deployed so that it knows to go and get the updated version. So that's really as simple as it gets from a Lovable perspective. When you create that new connector, give it the endpoint, it's going to take you through the OAuth authentication so that it knows you're you, authenticate against Entra, get that bearer token, and so forth. So that's all built into the MCP authentication based on those environment variables that we specified earlier. But if we go back and look at that, now we can say, hey, I'm going to upload a new folder or create a new folder. And you're going to say, well, wait a second, it's not there. So in true fashion, I'm going to grab a prompt and we're going to drop it into there. It's going to go and chug for a little bit. And what I'm telling it to do is create a new dialog box that has the name of the folder. So it knows that the name of the folder is part of the parameters that go into the endpoint that creates that functionality within the app. And it's going to produce this here in just a second. So it's reading through the structure of the document, and we'll see that come alive here in just a second and focus on that functionality. All right. So as that's going through, you'll notice that now within my application, all of these buttons and functionality that I've incorporated can all be activated simply by determining what method I want to use in the MCP and vibe coding that through in my prompt. Okay, so it's error now. Great, it's going to fix that. When it comes back, then we're going to have our dialog box. And in the back end, what it's doing is it's going to know where am I in my container. So it has context of the container. It has context of which folder I'm at in the container. So if I'm creating a nested folder, for example, I may want to have it reference that. It may be in the root of the folder. So as the prompt is running, it knows, hey, I'm going to check the folder structure and see where to put that. because that's one of the parameters that we may need to provide into that endpoint. Where in the file structure am I, so that I can build it up from there. Okay. All right, so this is going to come here in 2 seconds. I can feel it. And it's going to... New folder prompt. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to refresh the page, and we're going to see that folder prompt here in just a second. What that will do, again, holy cow. Okay, it does not like this today. Yeah, okay, so it's going to build that. I've got one in my back pocket here that we can take a look at. So for instance, if we were to create that new folder, hey, this is a new folder, and it's going to give it the name of the folder. And as soon as I hit that create folder mechanism, it's going to know the endpoint from the MCP server to grab that code from, and then go ahead and create that folder in that folder structure. So you'll notice that I'm at the root, or I'm in the invoices folder in this case. It's going to know to take that parent ID, create the folder that's in that folder. So it'll be a nested folder in this case, and then we'll be able to create that from there. Okay, so it's still editing and fixing there, but that's where we start to focus on how do we use the MCP servers, okay? So we'll give it another 10 seconds here just for posterity. And yeah. Okay. So the good old demo worked about 30 minutes ago, and now there, create that new folder. There's my folder name. All right. And 365 working, which it should work. And there we go. Yep. Okay. So I think we're still, fixing the error there, but you get the idea, right? So creates a folder, knows what structure of the folder it gets into, and goes from there. So again, any of the functionality that hasn't been implemented, simply put the prompt into the editor and reference what you want it to do. Lovable or the agent will figure that out. It'll understand what that needs to call, and then implement that into the app from there. Okay. All right, so a couple things to wrap up. Start with some of the sample prompts. We have a prompt folder that's in that samples directory that you can use as well. Be kind of specific on your prompts on what you want it to do. Doesn't always have to be a specific you want to. The more screenshots you can throw in there, the better, right? Test locally, obviously, security matters, so that environment variable or file that we mentioned is that placeholder. Naturally, if you're going to hit the endpoints within Azure, you're going to want to rotate those secrets regularly so that you can keep that berry token going. And then leverage all tools that are in there. So now within that MCP server, you have all of the CRUD operations that are supported by SharePoint Embedded in that MCP server. Add that to your project, and then you'll be able to use it from there. So if you do want to get started, here is a quick QR code to get to that sample directory. We do have some public documentation there on how to get started with SharePoint Embedded and use that within your environment.